Okay. Let's see what happens tonight. Let's see what happens tonight. Oh, good day. We've got some people beginning to join us. Good evening, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining me this evening, my darlings. Much appreciated. Could you confirm that you can hear me without any problems? Hello, Connie. Hello, Sue. Hi, Faith. Goody, lovely. Please feel free to share this live to your groups or anyone where they're happy for you to sign. That would be lovely. It's always helpful. Thank you, Sue, for letting me know that. Yeah, it's quite nice. If there's any noise in the background, I have to say that that's because it's raining. Hey, all adds to the fun of life, my darlings, doesn't it? But hey ho. So a little bit of housekeeping for those that you haven't watched me before. I am one of Pentacolor's creative team. My name is Gill, and I do lives every Tuesday at 6 o'clock British Summer Time in the UK. If the red oval is at the top of your screen on the left side, then I am live at the time you're watching. If that is missing, then you're watching on replay. So please leave hashtag replay and leave a comment to let me know that you've watched. And if you have any questions, I'll know that I need to come back in and answer them for you. Good evening, Anthony. So cool. It's just gone 6 o'clock, and as always, I have done some prep. Not lots of prep, but some prep. So I have, and it may just be that it's been my Facebook feed, of course, because our feeds are all different depending on who we are watching. But on my Facebook feed, I have seen lots of smashed or broken or busted canvases. And it's a technique that I first came across probably 10-15 years ago, but I haven't seen being used recently. But it definitely seems to me to have made a bit of a revival. And there've been I posted a make that I had done using that technique, or my version of that technique. And then I've had lots of people commenting about how to do it. And that's been a constant theme, actually, in lots of places. So, well, it would help if you picked up your trimmer that had got the blade in it, wouldn't it? Hey ho! Not the scoring day. Let me just swap that around. So there are lots, I'm sure there are lots and lots of different ways of doing this technique. But, yeah, this is just mine. And you might wonder why I'm about to tap my rice paper with a trimmer. That's because we're rearranging it a little bit on the paper, and all will become clear. So this technique requires you to have a canvas with a little bit of depth. This is about 1.5 centimeters. So it doesn't actually matter how deep. And then you need something that you can back it with. So I actually have two A4 sizes. So one is dimensional and one is a flat. And the flat piece goes on the back, and then we will break the top piece. So these canvas. Hello, Juliana. Good evening, Sheila. Welcome, my darling. Welcome. So this, I'm going to use 3 pieces of decoupage of rice paper, but you could just as easily paint. And I think you probably could use some of the thinner scrapbook papers if that's what you wanted to do. The choice, I think, probably ultimately is up to you. So I'm using 3 rice papers, some Songs of the Sea collection, because I have them in my stash and they would work quite well for the final piece that I have done. But as I say, it doesn't have to necessarily be 3 identical. You could just as easily do a paint effect on at least 1, if not 2 of the surfaces, depending on what you want to do. There we are. So we're just going to pop that onto there. Does it have to be even? No. Would I prefer it to be even? Yes. Some of this isn't going to be visible anyway because of the way this is going to go onto the back panel. But do I necessarily want to have bubbles in it? No. So I'm just using Pentart's decoupage glue and varnish in matte because that's my preference. It could just as easily be the Silky Shine one. Doesn't need to be anything more than, doesn't need to be a heavy glue. If you are using paper elements that, for this piece, then you might need something that is a little bit thicker than that. So let's just knock these air bubbles out at the top. That will work, and let's get this piece down. So we've got 3 of these to get into place. Doesn't matter that it's wonky here because that's going to be tucked underneath the frame anyway, so that won't matter, as will the edge of that boat. So there we are. Let's just give this a nice layer and cover there over, and there we are. The bit that I lopped off the top is now going to be tucked underneath there, because why not? Well, because it's there and it might as well be used. And again, you're not going to see very much of it, so it doesn't matter that it's not blending in, because as I say, it's half of that's not going to be visible. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good option. That is a good option, Anthony. So now then, good. So this is the inside of my canvas, and at this point I'm just going to add a good layer of my decoupage glue underneath here. I think that the top layers are very much a personal choice depending on the look that you ultimately want for your project. So Pentart have silky, they have glossy, they have a glitter, lots of different options. So this is just another rice paper from that collection, and I'm just going to tuck it in. I'm not mithered about. There we are. And again, because these pieces are not going to be that visible, so we can then have just a little bit of a trim ultimately with, that'll be a pair of scissors. So there we are. Let's just chop that, because it's not going to be visible ultimately. It's just to fit that in. And you could cut off these edges so that you can see them. That would be equally fine. I'm just going to tuck these out of the way. There we are. So I can start to pop these down. But these are going to these pieces are going to be hidden, so it won't really matter. It's just a way of getting them out of the way and controlled. There we are. So let's just pop this under here. As I say, these are not going to be visible. If you want to cut and miter them, be my guest, but sometimes life is too short. There we are. But you do need something on both surfaces of the dimensional. canvas, because part of the inside will be visible. So let's just glue that down. Make sure we haven't got too many air bubbles in here. Give this a little good coating. As I say, all of the rice papers I'm using this evening come from the one collection, but this could just as easily be a paint effect on the inside rather than a rice paper. And maybe I'll do another one using some paint effects to show an alternative when we can. So let's just pop that over there. De-sticky the fingers and give that little bit, these two a little bit of a blast dry, because we're needing to do some other bits and pieces. And as I say, that so I know where I can take shortcuts. I know where I don't need to be overly worried about where I'm going with any of these. It's just about where we add in our layers along the way. So if we get this dry, well, these two wet, this dry, these starting to be dried at least, and I can flick this over and we can add our last bit in. But this really does need to be properly adhered in place, because if it's not properly glued down, it will lift when we cut the canvas later on, and then becomes ugly. It's worth commenting at this stage that if you've got paper that is heavily orientated in one direction or text, then when you break the canvas, the text, certainly at the top, is likely to be upside down. So you can use text on the inside. You just need to be aware that the imagery will be upside down, and be happy with that. Alternatively, don't use text or a directional piece of paper on the inside of the top frame, because that will just make your life easier if you don't do that. And there's no other way around doing this other than, I'm afraid, getting all of these layers dry. And could I have done some of it up front? Yeah, probably could have done, but would it have been the same? Probably not. So you can see there I've got some thick blobs of glue at the moment. So let me just get these into here. Reasonably dry around the edges, because we've got another layer to add on to this on the other side. And again, top tip, when you're doing that, just make sure that you've got your canvas orientated the correct way, particularly if you've got a very specific orientation that you ultimately want. Oh dear, that doesn't sound very healthy, does it? Here we are. Hi Isabel, welcome. Good evening, Julie. Welcome, welcome. Here we are. Oh. Here we are. Just need to get that reasonably dry. Yeah, it's still a bit tacky. It will continue to dry. So let's get it as dry as possible before we add the next layer in to this. Here we are. This is the only headache, of course, of doing a Facebook Live, is that you have layers that just need to be dry. And there's no short-circuiting any of that. And that's feeling a bit better, a bit less tacky overall, so that's cool. So that can go there. That can, ooh, she says, dropping things on the floor. That one can go to the ground level. That one can go over. That's the top. That's the bottom. Hey, I like it when a plan comes together. So there we are. Let's just... So the joy of having 3 coordinating rice papers is that I know that they will all work with the theme. As I say, you could do this, these layers in any order that you want it, but classically there will be a themed image or a focal image on the back panel, but it wouldn't be mine without adapting, so hey ho. There we are. Let's just get a good layer of that. Just layer of that. Hey, I like it when a plan comes together. There we are. And obviously I will need to paint the sides of my canvas, but that's not for now because those will be visible. So there we are. Let's just get that side down. That can go down. There we are. And then let's just add another layer of the glue over the top. And as always, I'm keeping my movements long, loose, all in this up and down direction. It wouldn't matter if I went transverse. See, this is just habit, I think, for me to do this. And but this will, as as the Pentart medium says, we'll seal this all into place. Don't want any air bubbles in it, so let's just make sure those are all pushed out. There, the heavens have decided to open. Hope that's not too distracting for people. Let's just move out some of those bigger, thicker layers of glue. There we are, and that should then be nicely I hope glued in place. There we are. So that can now tuck out of the way. Good evening, Anna. Welcome, my darling. There we are. Oh, maybe not. I can see a bubble there. Let's just push that out. It's not a complete disaster if we do, because we can always iron it out, or we can always re-glue it. There we are. Right, no more bubbles, which is rather excellent. So that can go down there to dry, and then we're going to have some easy-ish colouring today. There we are. I have a collection of things. Why wouldn't I have a collection of things? Here we are. Hey. So let's just do these lazy style or simple style, depending on what you're wanting. So I have sea-themed ice papers. I've got a sea-themed concept. So surprise, surprise, I have lots of shells. These are all from that collection. Now, the ones I did earlier, I actually painted with a creamy white. This is beige, so we're going to have some colour variation in it, but the process is exactly the same. So these are cast from white resin, and I have primed them with bonding primer ahead of time to make sure that my paints adhere nicely. There we are. Because there's nothing worse than peeling paint when you don't want it to. And as I say, I have some of these I have already painted, but I used cream white, so we're going to have some variation because shells are not all exactly the same, are they? And we've got easy painting technique, probably not biologically correct, but hey ho, who's counting? And yeah, it's about what looks right for you, I guess, as much as anything else. So there we are. This comes from the collection. So there we are. So it's a gargoyle face. Call it what you want. Not sure what it's meant to be, but I quite like it. So there we are. That's what we've got. Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome, my darling. Welcome. So that's those. All with a layer of that. They need to dry. Let's just pop that on. The lid on there. Let's say this is the Decor paint in matte, and that is beige in colour. So let's de-handle those. And these are the colours that are in the papers. So where's that like? And there we are. So let's just paint these other pieces. Okay. Let's de-yuck those because we'll have a mess. So this comes from one of the little soft molds, and it says take me to the ocean, and clearly I don't want it to be all everything to be the same. There are turquoisey colours in the mix. So I have country green, which comes in the rust and patina sets, and also mint that comes also in the rust and patina sets. And before we upset everyone, we'll just take some of this out of here, particularly as that's a new pot. Give it a little stir, pop some of that country green down there. We can relid that then nicely. There we are. Pop that over there, and we'll take some of that blue. It's a bit too bright for the piece overall, so we'll smush all them together, get a shade sort of in between. Because I think that's going to work. We've got way too more than we need here, but that's also just fine. But we'll just, there we are. Quick painting, because you don't need to spend hours doing things. Who's got hours? Most of us don't have, do we? So that will work for that. Okay, she says. There we are, and this is earthy brown. So these are, again, it's another colour from the rust and patina set. So I think it's helpful to have colours that you go back to repeatedly, because that way you will get the most use out of them. So let's just, we're going to cover the whole thing, and then we'll dry brush some of the other elements on once this top layer is and bring back the detail once this top layer is dry, because that's going to be by far the most easy, straightforward way of managing this tonight. There we are. Not going for a complete rusty effect. If I was, I would mix in some of the texture powders, but if you wanted to, you could absolutely do so. But I'm using the colours from the rice papers for inspiration for the piece. There we are. And then we're going to have icky mucky sticky hands, but hey ho, there we are. So let's just lid that. Hi Lorraine, welcome my darling. Hi Mary, thank you so much for joining me. There we are. Let's just give these a little bit of a blast dry. we're actually making reasonable progress, so that's always a positive, isn't it? Always a positive. Yeah, we can get rid of some of this clutter from the desk. Might need that. We will get rid of some of this clutter in a minute. Good evening, Betty. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Yeah. I just need to have these properly dry before we can do anything else, and we've got the canvases to be working. There's never any need to be sorry, Jackie. The guides are there to be watched back at any stage when you want to, if you're interested in them. All I've done so far is glue 3 pieces of rice paper onto some canvas, so nothing very complicated or difficult. Oops, she said, let's get rid of that bit of brown on there. Yeah. So let's just leave those partially dry. Let's just take some of the vintage brown just to add some colour variation into the anchor, because I don't want it to be all completely flat, because it's not likely to be all a single colour, is it? Let's face it. So deliberately not going for full coverage at this point. Add a little bit of gold, but we're looking for sort of distressed antique. So this one, as I say, is the vintage brown, because I rather like that. Let's pick up some of that. Just go for a grungy. There we are. So it's not all the same, and we might then just take, quite like the look of that. It's quite effective. Let's just shovel that in there, and let's just add a little hint of metallic. I'm not intending adding very much to this, she said. Famous last words, of course, always will be, won't it? Let's find a flat brush, knock that back. There we are. And we can just add just a little bit of detail into that, so it looks a bit like it might have been dragged up from the bottom of the earth. Very simple, but lots of layers and detail, and each layer is important. There we are. Let's get that lidded onto there. Let's tuck that into there. So we don't need that, don't need that. Those can go out of harm's way. That can go out of harm's way. Let's see, give these a bit more of a dry. But I can see that the blue one is definitely still wet. Those might not be. So whilst that one's continuing to dry, let's just have a little tidy up of that mess. I don't think I'm going to need that blue again, but you never know. We might do it. No, let's just leave it there in case. So I want to add some interest to my shells. So that piece is now finished and ready. So let's tackle the gargoyle. No, we're going to do the gargoyle last, because it's just going to give it that little bit longer to dry, if that makes sense. So I want to add some details and some textures into my shells. So I've got chestnut Lasur gel, ochre antiquing gel, well loved pots, and brown antiquing gel. Okay, so this means that I can add lots of different tones into these, and by mixing them up I'm going to get colour variation. There we are, relatively easily. So as ever, we're just going to wipe these back. That's going to help give me some colour variation. Onto these pieces, rather than them being a single flat colour, but we're going to get some of the natural colours of the shells coming through with the beige, and some of the darker colours as well, because shells are not a flat colour, are they? They're all definitely a mixture. There we are. You can see the variation I'm going to get by doing this. It's just a really easy way of adding interest to your pieces with very, very little effort. Is it lazy? Is it effective? Is it efficient? I leave you to make that decision. But it just is. Super easy. And if I wanted these paler, I could add some white, but actually I'm quite happy with it coming through in these colours. There we are. And I'm using this because these are water-based products. And so that means that I don't have to have any nasty solvents out, and everything is a water cleanup, which is also possible. And I've got lots of variation in the process. So I don't need the yellow, I don't need the chestnut. So those two can go off out of the way. I decided I wasn't going to use that white, so let's clear that. Let's just give my mucky hands a wipe. We're going to have to give that a bit more of a blast. So this is the gargoyle. So we'll add that. I do have some wax out. I might add some wax. We're going to see how I feel. So I'm hoping that this will look a bit like aged stone by the time it's wiped back, which is why I picked the base that I did for this. Let's get that all covered. So now I've got a mucky mess, but actually I can now wipe it back, and I'm probably not going to add any wax onto this. I'm rather liking it. So there we are, all of the detail all popped back into there. There we are. Who would have believed it? Right, let us figure this out. I have got a whole section more of the shells already done, but I did those on a cream white base. So I lift these over, you see. So this one's done on the beige base, these are done on the white base. So lots of different shells that I can tuck in, but I really didn't think you needed to see me doing all of that little lot all off. And I could add another layer by just dry brushing over, but actually I'm quite happy with them as they are. And I've got a huge variation there just by mixing things up. So those can go over there. those will dry quickly enough anyway. I just need this one to dry properly in its depth. If I don't let this dry properly in the depth, then I am going to move the blue paint when I add the distressing to it, and that won't give you the look that I ultimately want. Yeah. This isn't impossible. There we are. So lots of different pieces. Probably okay. If it's not, it'll be my bad. It's just such a super way of doing, easy way of doing things. Thank you. Yeah. So let's just add some of the brown antiquing gel to my piece of resin. Fortunately, I think I have managed to get it dry because I'm not lifting the paint. Which is always helpful. There we are. Cool. That can go there. So let's just take off some of that so that this now works in with the whole piece. You can take back as much or as little as you want. Once it's dry, it doesn't lift off. So just be aware that you need to have that properly dry from there. Mucky, icky, sticky fingers. We just need to give those a good clean. Otherwise, we're going to transfer antiquing gel when we don't want it. I'm going to get rid of that blue rather than put it back in the pot because, as I say, it was a mix of two colours in the first place. So there we are. Let's just do that. Clear up the mess. Took that out of screenshot. That's okay. And then we won't have too big a set or too busy a set of surfaces here for following what's going on. So I do need to get these mucky mitts clean. There we are. We are getting there. They don't have to be perfect, but I don't quite really want them quite as bad as they are. And I know some people really don't like getting mucky hands. These are all water-based products. They're completely safe to have on your hands. So I'm not mithered about it. I am just going to add just a little bit. I do have some gold wax left in this pot. Honestly, I do. There we are. Onto the top of there. So that reads, take me to the ocean. There we are. And let's get rid of the rest of that. So I've got my title, I've got my embellishments, I have my canvases. Oh, that one is still wet. So we're just going to add some extra bits and pieces and details onto these. I need to be mindful when I'm layering onto here, and you don't have to, you could just leave it as the image, that I am going to lose approximately a centimetre in at each side and here, and I'm going to layer things over the top. So what have I got? I have all sorts of bits and pieces here. Now that I know was intending to go up there along with that. Was it that one? Anyway, we'll work it through as we go. So these are ephemera from Songs of the Sea collection. So I'm just going to add some of these pieces onto here, and we're going to do some layering. There it might be. There we are. So let's just pick this piece up. Some of these are going to go down flat. I haven't got a huge amount of depth to play with. Good evening, Sophie. Welcome, my darling. There we are. So that can go there. And so these, as I say, they're die cut by Pentart. So they have a white edge and there's a thickness to them, which means that the white edge shows, which is why I'm using an archival ink. There we are. So that's going to go into there. We're just building up a picture. Simple as. Nothing too complicated. Nothing, you know, difficult. As I say, we're just building up a little bit of depth and dimension onto these pieces. Getting rid of the backing is probably the most difficult piece of doing this. We might, so that canvas is nice and dry now, so that's always a positive feature because it means I can add. So I know I have on my desk the canvas spacers, stretchers. So let's just put one of those there, one of those there, and grab some gel medium and a palette knife. There we are, that one will do. So some of this I can do before I smash my canvas, and some of it I cannot. So that just needs to come up there, making sure I've got that gap at that edge for adding in my pieces. So I have, and I'm not going to pop that. I have got this piece, but actually I'm going to use my resin piece. Let's get rid of some of that. Let's just wipe the excess of that out of the way. And then we can pop that way. I think I'm going to pop it that way. I think it's going to sit better on there. There's more of it in contact, if that makes sense. This piece is going to go up there, but I'm going to leave that until after I have put my when I want to put the title in, if that makes sense. There we are. So those are going to sit myself, but those I'm going to glue on afterwards. So let me see what else. Ooh, she says, mucky, icky, sticky fingers. Of course, why not? Why not? So let us just lift this off. And then we can take another canvas riser. There we are, that can sit there. I'm going to pop that one there because that's going to sit nicely. And then we're going to just do some adding in. So this piece, I don't want to be quite as high as the other one. I want them to look as if they're stacked on top of each other. Because why not? Why not? So let us find something alternative to the riser. There we are. This is just a piece of grey board. So let's just break that up. Let's use a pair of scissors that we're not going to be in trouble with. There we are. Oh, there we are. Oh, there we are. So that can go there. So that will tuck underneath there quite nicely. And this one can go completely underneath. My foot's getting there, my darling. I can now get a pair of shoes on, which is always a positive. She says, throwing stuff on the floor. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? She says, moving everything over. There we are. So let's just put some coins underneath. There we are. I can sit under there. We've got single coins, but we're going to add some of the shells in a minute. We may have more than we need, but that's also okay. There we are. Cool. And let's just ink our starfish. And take the backing off. Oh, excuse me. Well, that's not very helpful, is it? Sorry, I'm off camera, aren't I, there, because I'm tucked under me. But there we are. Let's just, all I'm doing is literally taking the backing off the ephemera piece. And I can then add him. So he's partly on and partly off. And that's the joy of those being relatively thin. I don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. I am going to pop that piece up onto there. Oh. So it's linking, helping to link all, take it off the back, not trying to take it off the front. There we are. There we go. That can go there. Oh. There we are. Okay. So let us start adding in some of these pieces. We might not need all of them. That will work for me. So let's, where's that? So we can add that in now. We can add this. Can go into there. Will just help and get rid of that piece. That one can go under there. He can go over there. There we are. Let's pop that one onto there. So we're adding them up and down, building a pattern. Yeah, quite like that. Yeah, happy for that to go on top of my piece. And that might, for the moment, work there. So some of these other pieces I will add in as we go. But for at this point, I've got a basic composition in place. So let's just pop those all over there. And I'm going to pop that out of harm's way. Because we just need to do a little bit of drying. So let me just take some of this beige paint and tackle the edges of this canvas. Ultimately, I will distress those edges. with some of the brown antiquing gel. I might not do that on the live. We might, because we might need to leave things to dry. And I'm just using my fingers just to blur these in a little bit so that the edge of my canvas, it's because I've got an A4 dimensional canvas. There we are. So I've got edges that need to be covered. How you cover them is up to you, really. But this is going to work quite nicely for me, I think. So let's just pop that into there. And then I can take a heat gun to here. And then we can break this canvas down a little bit. And then it will become clear as to why it's called a busted canvas. So let's just smoosh that in, bring the sides up onto there. That can go onto there. It's just a rice paper bee. Comes from Songs of the Sea collection. So that can now go out of harm's way. And let's just give this a very good dry. So this is a project that's worth doing in layers and thinking about your layers as you go. Because of it being dimensional. Now I've added all sorts into the base of my I'm not back on Thursday, darling. I'm back on Friday for a different company. There we are. So it's just, so this is still too dry now, so we need to do anything your way. So I'm right, I definitely need this to be properly dry now. And of course the headache is I've got glue on the other side as well. It surely would. It surely would. It's still a bit tacky. So let me just give this a proper dry. Oh, right. Oh, sorry, darling. Yes, he is back on Thursday. You are completely correct. For a company that supplies pencils in the UK. So that's always helpful to know, isn't it? They don't have a whole range, but they've got a reasonable range. I'm not sticking to that, so I guess that's a helpful activity. Right, this side is still tacky. So let's just carry on and give this lot a whole dry. If I need to take a knife to it. And it's definitely, I think, easier to take a knife at this point to it or from the back. It's getting there. Good. Quite dry up at the top. Okay. Okay. So I'm now going to break this top canvas. And how you break it and the directions you break it is really up to you, and how many pieces you break it into is really up to you. So that's approximately the center, and I'm not going to go for a completely symmetrical look today, but I do need to have a little thing. I want a piece that's going to curl that way and some pieces that are going to curl this way. So let me just if I go from there to there, that's going to give me a piece to curl back. I can always add some more in, and there to there, and there down to there. So I'm just making essentially a big X into here, and I might want a smaller piece into there and a smaller piece here. How many you make is really entirely up to you. And I can see that my glue is not completely dry in the center, so I'm going to end up having to add some more. So I've now broken my canvas. Yeah, well and truly broken my canvas. And I need to put my hot glue gun on. So just bear with. And we're going to do a little bit of inking whilst this dries. Now, definitely at this point, it's easier to use some hot glue than this. Now, I've used a canvas, and that means I've got white canvas, and those all show through. So let me just ink all of these edges. As I say, you can do these symmetrically or asymmetrically. The choice is entirely yours as to, and you know, you could cut it into 4 pieces, rather than lots. There we are. Let's just deal with that bit where I've shredded the canvas a little bit. Hopefully that won't show. So let's just ink all of these edges. I can ink edges that are showing whenever I want, but some of these will be difficult to get to. So let's just ink them all now whilst the going is good. And there we are. Okay. So let us see if we've got a glue gun that is hot yet. Not quite. Okay. Is it plugged in? Yes, it's warming up. It's definitely easier to do this with okay. So currently that's not sitting up down, but don't ask me why, but it will be shortly. What have I got that's stopping that? It's that piece and that piece. So let's just take those off until we get this down. And that is, of course, the joy of the gel medium. Cool. So let's take some glue. This is just some craft glue. Okay. And then that can line onto there and be squashed down. Okay. So hence the 2 canvases. Yeah. Excellent. So let us just, so when these are wetter, rather than completely dry, this is definitely easier to glue these in place, but it's easier to roll the broken pieces. And this is why it's called a busted canvas. And as I say, you can make these pieces completely symmetrical. It's entirely up to you, but you don't have to. Yeah, it's just, there we are. But if you're going to do it asymmetrically, do it properly asymmetrically, because it just makes more sense. There we are. I might stick that ugly piece, tucked that into there. That's going to look better, isn't it? There we are. Thank you. Well, as I say, I don't think it's a new technique, but it just suddenly started, you know, lots of these started appearing in my Facebook feed. And so I just thought it would be, and then I got asked lots, you know, I posted one I did, and then I had people asking me how to do it. So there we are. So literally all I'm doing now is rolling this. This is when you need 6 pairs of hands, though. It really is. And you can make these as big or as small as you want. The options are entirely yours. I'm using the hot glue gun because it's just going to be easier from the purposes of a live to do that. Right, we just need a new glue stick. There we are. Let's just grab, oh dear, that's a bit wobbly but and broken. Let's just pick one that's not quite so bent over. Let's just move, oh, maybe we won't just move that like that. Let's just move the whole thing together whilst that glue dries. There we are. Let's just pop it down. That's because I've used wet glue, and of course it has not had time to glue solidly in place, and that's just fine. That's me. There we are. Yow, she says. There we are. Hey. Okay. So let's just now start filling in some of these gaps, and I can squash those down or not, as the case may be. So I'm liking that there. Now then, because you need a compass, don't you? You definitely need a compass when you're all at sea. Let's just take this and pop that so it's partly under, partly not. And let's just tuck that there. And I'm going to pop him there, I think, because I rather like him there. What did I do with my palette knife? Oh, never mind. We'll just get another one out. There we are. So back to our gel medium. So pop that so it's reasonably straight and get rid of that excess. And we're going to pop, you can hear rain, darling. It is raining. But it wouldn't be Manchester if it wasn't, would it, really? There we are. So that can go there. Okay. So let's just start adding. So I'm going to pop that piece into there. And I think we're going to pop that piece. Shall we have it? Well, I think we're going to pop that piece into there. And I can see why I did so many of these, because you've got the other layers to add into, haven't we? So we've got all sorts of bits and pieces. So let's just tuck that. So I've got some areas that I'm thinking are looking a bit empty. So let's just tuck that into there. And let's just tuck that one into there. And the other pieces underneath are still a bit wet. And that's also just fine. There we are. That can go there. Because I can carry on adding in now as it suits me. So let's stick little urchin onto the top of there. Let's stick that one into there. Yeah, we'll stick that one into there. So I'm just utilising the nooks and the crannies that I've got here to build in extra details. Do I want that? Should I stick it underneath? I might not use all of these, but that's fine. You know, use as many or as a few or as you want. I'm rather thinking that might work quite nicely there, though. Let's just take some more of that gel medium. And that can sit onto there. And let's see what we've got. Yeah. We've got lots of areas here, haven't I? I can fill into my heart's content, or not, as the case may be. Let's just tuck that. I don't think that's going to work. Well, that one will. Let's just tuck that up underneath there. So I'm just utilising all of the nooks and the crannies. That can go over the top. Into there. Let's just pop a piece up onto there. Let's just get rid of some of that extra gel medium. And then you just add to your heart's content, really. Yeah. So these all come from one of the molds. Thinking that might be a bit big, but I've got some doubloons here, some little coins, again from the ephemera pack. So let's just tack some of these. And then we can tuck some of these in. So that can go tucked underneath there. They are resin pieces, darling. They're all from I think one Stamperia mould from I think it's last year's rather than this year's. Could be both. Could be both. Let's just tuck that doubloon partly under, partly not. There we are. And we've got some little ones. So let's just ink the edges of that. Oh dear. Get that off there. Okay, is that a subtle hint? We could. They're quite expensive to do, darling, but we might do we could possibly do a variation on a theme. Let's just pop that one up there. It's going to irritate me because I've put it on the wrong. There we are. Wasn't quite what we had in mind for the autumn retreat. See, there's lots of these coins in this set. I have only got a bit of one of the ephemera packs out here. Okay. And we could add some pearls, but I'm thinking that I might not be adding any pearls. We're just going to leave that. Leave that, leave that. Leave that. Let's see. Let's see. I'm not too sure whether I want to add this or not, but let's just have a little see. I'm hoping it might be dry enough. See, I think that is going to work. You'd like some pearls. Okay, Betty, that can be done. I've got a pile next to me. We can do that. If this is dry, that will have taken off. So that's just one of the Stamperia rub-ons. Obviously, that bit is underneath, so that doesn't matter. So we've added that. Do I want to add anything more? Do I need to add anything more? Possibly not. Possibly not. We do have other bits and pieces. So, okay, Tolkien, if we want some pearls, let's just pop. I've got art stones out as well, so we might just do a little bit. Oh, and we've got some bigger ones as well. Not so subtle. Okay. Do I like that? Well, you see that now it's disappeared under. Go on. Well, if I give it a good shake, it will come out. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, let us see what we want to do. We can add. Because why not? Why not? Okay. Where's that? I'm very much aware that I've got a that will dry clear. So let's just go, we'll stick one of those into there, just poking out. Let's just stick another one into there. Maybe not just poking out. We'll stick another bit of glue there and hopefully it will grab. There we go. That's better. So let's just add a little sprinkling also of some smaller ones, mixed sizes. No, darling, I haven't, otherwise I might have got it out, but I haven't got any fine netting, which is not, but it's a good suggestion. They're better, but I do have some alternatives to go into here. There we are. It's possibly enough of those. Let's just have some stones. They'll catch on all of that. And of course I can't now tip this up to get rid of all of the excess of that, but because it's just going to go every which way, isn't it? I can guarantee it's going to go every which way. That's fine. We'll shovel it into the bottom so it's out of the way for the moment. Those can go back in the pot. Some of those can go out of the way. That's looking quite nice. I quite like a little bit more down into there. So there we are. Let's just put a few more bits of those into there. Currently, my anchor is just a bit floaty. So let's just defloat him by shoveling a few more of those onto there. There we are. Take some of that and shovel that onto there. Get rid of all of that white blobbing. Don't know that I want to. Oh, they can stay up there. So I can give that a good shake once it's dry and get rid of some of that lot with the extra. Let's just pop a few onto the edge of there. And we might just pop a little bit. And then you just carry on adding till you're happy. Till you're happy. And of course you can do these in to suit any theme that you want. There we are. So there we are. Gauze might work, Betty, but I'm actually quite happy with this piece now, just as it is. She says, adding more bits to cover onto some of that. There we are. Let me see. Do we have some gauze? Gauze we can get our hands on. Left over from operating days, but clearly not. Let's see if we can shovel it in. We don't need it that colour though. There we go. That's what ink pads are for at this stage in the game. We might not put it in. We might, but we'll see how we feel. Yeah, I do quite like that, Beth. Thank you very much for the suggestion. You can go there. I'll shovel that into there. Right. All right. Ooh, don't think I want the blue piece. Let's not use the surgical marker, but just going to, I think the one piece just looks a bit sad. So let's just and then just pull it, rip it, create lots of texture. Yeah, okay. You see now you've started. It's. I think it might be you, Betty, because it's okay at my end. It's amazing what you've got when you go hunting stuff, isn't it? But I knew the gauze was going to be near. There we are. And that's definitely the most efficient method of doing that I've ever encountered, I think. Yeah. Okay. Just that little bit. There we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a busted canvas. I hope you like. I've enjoyed making it this evening, which is always a positive. It gives you lots of layers. You definitely don't need to add all of the depths and the pieces into that. You could just leave it as a picture in its own right, but having got a dimensional peak canvas, it was just asking to have added layers put into it. So let me switch that heat gun off so we don't forget. There we are. Let's just clear the decks, she says, sending things every which way. Out of that huge number of pieces, I only have one piece left, but it's just, I think it's just too much. Oh no, yeah, I'm going to pop that under there, because why not? It's a woman's prerogative to change her mind, isn't it? There we are. There we are. So that is all the pieces that we painted, plus the ones I had done before the live, all added. It's a good way to use up lots of pieces of rice paper. It surely is. But you don't have to just use rice papers. You can use it with lots of other things as well. So ordinary paper, music sheets works quite well. Harlequin's checks, ordinary scrapbooking paper. But you do need to make sure it's adhered or right down properly before you do terribly much with it, if that makes sense. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay safe, whatever you're up to. Don't forget to tag me in any projects that you make that have been inspired by what I've done. And I hope to see you back online for Pentart next Tuesday. Oh, no, not next Tuesday, because Hungary have a public holiday next Tuesday. It will be a week tomorrow, so rather than on Tuesday next week. So bye-bye for now.